Hey guys, welcome into the Falaya Focus studio, where today we're here with Chris Spalatin of BRAC. He's been a longtime supporter of Falaya real estate, helping us kind of build traction throughout Baton Rouge, the state of Louisiana, and also kind of pushing us to connect with other business providers throughout the city and the state and grow into other states as far as Mississippi. So we're excited to be on here today to talk about a little bit about his background, his entrepreneurship, LSU MBA program, everything that BRAC has going on and can offer the business community and help grow Baton Rouge. So we're excited to have Chris on today. Welcome on, Chris.
Thank you so much, Barrett. It's pretty cool to be here. I remember when I first met you guys, you know, we're in Nexus. I can reveal the location, right?
Right. Yes.
And it's sort of an interior office space, and I'm walking down the hallway and I open the door and it's like mics everywhere. There's a window sill over there with neon signs. So it's pretty cool. Yeah,
no doubt, man. We actually sat in these exact same chairs and like introduced each other. And
we recorded that too for some reason.
I know, we should have. Like the conversation before this, right? Like we've been talking about that for a while. Like, can we have a pre-recording of the recording?
Right. Well, we just talked for like a half hour.
We probably had at least 3 or 4
stuff.
gems there, you know? Like, I don't know. Anyway, but it's really cool to put out some content, and we love to highlight BRAC and everything that you've got going on and everything you're building over there. So
nice. Well, we love awesome companies like Falaya.
No doubt, man. So I guess tell everybody kind of who you are a little bit and a little bit of background about yourself. Yeah.
All right. Well, as Barrett said, my name is Chris Spalatin. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I was sort of the surprise addition to a family there. I have 3 older sisters. Like when I went to kindergarten, my oldest sister went to college, went to Fairfield in Connecticut.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
And let's see. So I went to Boston College. I did a bunch of summer internships out in Los Angeles at different film studios, some production companies. I had a film minor as one of my degrees. And when I graduated, I got in my truck. I have a sister that lives in Malibu, and I drove across the country with every intention of figuring out how to be a Hollywood writer. And I had an offer to go help set up a t-shirt company in the warehousing in Hawaii.
Right.
So at age 22, I said yes.
Yeah.
And within 36 hours, I was on an airplane.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
I just sold a house where the couple is 2 friends of mine from Varsity Sports, where they're moving to the Big Island in Hawaii. And so like, I'm so jealous of that, man.
The Big Island it's one of my favorite hotels in the world. It's called the Mauna Kea. It's an old like Rockefeller estate or something like that.
Okay.
But it's on the Kona side. It is it's not cheap, but it's great. For some reason, I think I've been there maybe a few times. Yeah. Once was enough to be like, this is the best, but I've been there twice. I took my wife out there before we had kids, around the holidays, around like, you know, kind of like late December.
Right.
And it's just a cool vibe out there. And the weather, I mean, you can't.
Yeah, no doubt. So,
the active volcanoes, you know, a little concerning.
They did have one recently.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It hit news
rolling,
as they were moving. I saw Apple pinged my phone that there was an active volcano. I was like, hey guys, screenshot it, send it to them.
Yeah, you sure these hurricanes are that bad?
Yeah, the hurricanes, volcano. I don't know. It's crapshoot, right?
Yeah,
there's always something. But that's interesting about the family. I'll take it back to the beginning of that. So Rivers is 6 years old, and my stepdaughter Wakely is 22 years old. So we have that. My wife has that gap between her oldest child and her youngest child.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see the dynamic between Wakely and Rivers and
yeah, you know, and even so, let's see. Then so my 2 older sisters are kind of like 2 years apart. And so by the time I was in middle school, they both also more or less, when they finished college, were kind of out of the house, and everybody left. So no reflection on our parents. We love them dearly. They're still in DC. And then my sister Ann was maybe 5 years from there. So we're like 5.5, 6 years apart. But yeah, growing up, especially with my oldest sister Jen. I mean this in the nicest way, but we're obviously family. We love each other always, but it was almost like an aunt or something like that.
Sure,
and then when I went to Boston College, she had been living there. She was worked for Sodexo Marriott, did the all the food management for the Museum of Science. So I got to know her really well. We got kicked out of a house junior year. So I stayed with her. I had like my toothbrush in my pocket, like taking the train to class. But yeah, that's a little bit of a spread, but kind of big Catholic family. Yeah. Everyone's doing well. They each have 3 kids. My wife and I have 2. I thought we were going to like try to go for 4 for the win, but I was like, especially after our second, we had a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. Right? We were like, I think this is good. Yeah.
Yeah. We saw each other at the museum the other day.
That's right. Yeah.
We were on the birthday party circuit. Yeah. So,
and we actually, and we met at the preschool soccer circuit at Burbank. So it's like,
you got those circuits, right? I mean, you start getting 2 kids, it's a little bit of a circuit. When you start getting 4, it's like, oh my God, how do you even keep up?
One of my brothers-in-law, he called it when they had their 3rd. He said they had to switch to a zone defense.
Zone defense. Yeah, that's right.
So, but yeah, I see you running out. We did that run. Kind of in my neck of the woods from Superior Grill. Yeah, you with Varsity, me with Iron Tribe, and then I almost ran you over yesterday. Leaving the lakes. Yeah, at LSU. Yeah. My kids were like, "You honked." I was like, "Well, you could do a friendly honk." You know?
It was cool. It's always get honked at during that stretch.
You're gonna see everybody.
And everybody's either leaving
at
LSU at 5, or they're like picking up their kids from U High, which I don't know. Is that what you were doing? U High? Or
so our son is a kindergartner at U High, and then he does the after school at University Methodist, and that's where our daughter goes.
Oh, University Methodist.
So that's been a great.
I love that church. We went there for a while.
Yeah, and they have a wonderful summer camp as well.
They do.
Here we are in the beginning of February, and it's like, gotta get all your plans for summer done.
You better submit all the paperwork. We need to just sign everything in. You need a cashier's check.
I did look. I don't know what you've seen for Rivers, because I think we're just going to go ahead and do it, and we'll be out of town for a week. I was like, if we could figure out like some sort of immersive thing, I'll kind of put the feelers out. But I did look at, because we go to Ocean Springs every so often, and we always go past that Infinity Space Center with Stennis. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I know they do an Astro Camp, but I think you have to be going into 2nd grade. So he's a year away from that.
That would be cool.
That would be a drive, but maybe we could carpool it or something.
Yeah, Rivers would be into it. I mean, he's all into that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And we're always trying to, like last year we did Trinity the whole summer.
Okay.
Trying to get him ingrained in Trinity and like comfortable with the teachers in the school and all that. But I mean,
that's what we did at the lab school. I think it's no secret that their summer camp's very expensive. It's more expensive than University Methodist, and that's for a half day.
Oh, really?
So if you want to do the whole day, you get to pay it twice. But we were on a trip to Europe. My dad, we're from Croatia. Spalatin is the name there. And so we had this trip planned literally for 4 years, because it got delayed 3 times because of COVID, my whole extended family. So like we could not move this trip for anything. And that happened to be, what do they call it? Kindergarten readiness camp.
I got you.
And so that was 5 days, like mandatory. They're like, it's not mandatory, but 100% of the kids have gone for forever. And we were like, so he was able to go to 2 of those. So we paid for 2 weeks of camp so we could kind of get familiar with the drop off and all that stuff. Preschool to kindergarten is kind of a jump, you know?
It is. Yeah. Especially for boys. They're rambunctious, or mine is, at least. I don't know if everybody else is, but
our kid the thing with him is he's enormous. He's he's a big guy.
He's a Spalatin.
Yeah, exactly. It's that Croatian blood, you know. And he'll have the big forehead like me too. You know?
Can't miss him.
Yeah, exactly.
He might honk loud coming up down ramp.
There was a time in his life when he was like, "Hi, I'm 5, but I look like I'm 8." Just to like strangers, you know. Like.
No doubt. I was definitely the dude in the back in the pictures, you know. Like I was never on the front row. Like never. You always want what you didn't have, right? Like,
what about do you do swim camp, or you just do that on your own?
Oh no, so we have a pool in our house.
Okay,
luckily.
Well, of course, yeah. Realtor, you're gonna have a nice setup.
We,
you know,
we did score a pretty nice house.
Yeah, I imagine you.
I mean, dude, it did. I wasn't even really looking for a house. Like I wasn't even really looking, and then it came across. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. It's a house and a lot. Has a back pool and a back office, which was unbelievable. I mean, built an outdoor
that's really
kitchen
cool.
area that overlooks
You
the
must hear
office.
about like the coolest opportunities.
That's
know?
what I mean. It was
Yeah.
like, it was an opportunity.
Can't pass it up.
It was definitely an opportunity. We ended up buying it for like $50,000 less than appraisal too.
Wow.
So, which made building an outdoor kitchen and a little bit more palpable.
Well, we did crawfish aquatics, and then just with our son, and then we did LSU tiger aquatics, I think, at the natatorium, which is really cool. But I think for our daughter who's 4, she's potty trained. I think crawfish is like a better place for her to start. It's a bigger group.
No.
You know?
We went to crawfish.
Yeah.
I did crawfish.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to say I never went. I did crawfish. I was a guy in the pool with the t-shirt.
Yeah.
I did all that. Yeah.
And then,
but then I just took them in the pool and
figure it out. We're building a house in Roseanne, as you know, and so we're super excited about having the community pool there that we can walk to, right. And but so we know I think they'll be all right. And Evo is that's the boy. He'll be a good swimmer. He's already getting into it. He's kind of slow on the uptakes. You got to give him some time, but he'll figure it out. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, what about DC? Growing up in DC and then transition to Boston. Let's talk about that a little bit. What do you think about going from those 2 big markets? I guess living in those markets, how does that translate and maybe help you in the Baton Rouge markets?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you're growing up, you don't really. At least I was never I never focused that much on the fact that I lived in DC, or not that I lived in DC, but sort of on its characteristics. But my dad worked in federal government, and at the end of his career, he was in the State Department. But like when I was a kid, and this is like in the late '80s, he'd come back from a trip with like a kind of like a Ruski, Soviet style fur hat. So his big thing in his career was arms control and disarmament. Okay. So the stuff in Ukraine right now is wild for a lot of different reasons, but specifically for him, he's just like, this is unbelievable, And then my mom was she worked at a soup kitchens called So Others Might Eat, and she was a medical technician. Okay. So she was initially kind of doing blood work and sort of nurse practitioner duties. And then by the end, she was doing more kind of insurance filing and stuff like that, which is a big deal for that space, like Medicaid and stuff like that. Oh, for sure.
You got to keep the lights on and keep serving those people.
Yeah. So growing up and, relatively religious household. So there was a big emphasis on sort of service and sort of giving back to the community. I went to a Catholic grade school called Blessed Sacrament, went to Jesuit high school called Gonzaga, a couple blocks down from the Capitol. And then I went to Jesuit college. So I actually applied to 1 high school and 2 colleges, and I did not get into the Wharton School at Penn. And so I was like, I hope I get into Boston College because I don't really have anything beyond that. And it's funny.
You're shooting high, bud.
Well, and for our son, we applied to 6 kindergartens. And that's the choice model, and it's this is confusing, but anyways,
really
that
hard
all worked
to get into
out.
Kindergarten school, but
yeah, exactly, yeah. But yeah, Boston College was great. I not a fan of the sports teams up there. I mean, it's okay to say it. I got family up there, but no. But
you're not a Patriots fan.
No. I'm really. It's hard for me to be like a.
What years
what are they
were you
called
up
now?
there?
Commanders?
What years were you up there?
I was there for 9/11. I remember that distinctly, my
Okay.
sophomore year. So I was there in 2000. I
So you
graduated
and
in
I are the same
2004.
age. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But it was cool. Other than getting evicted junior year, I did a semester at the Sorbonne in Paris. As econ major. Loved Boston a lot. Definitely a cool place. Have a lot of good friends. And there are a lot of friends from New York actually that I met there while there. Yeah, I had the international studies minor too, because that's been a big kind of interest of mine. By the time I got out to Hawaii, kind of in between setting up kind of operations on Maui, and then I was like, okay, well, this was a fun, 18 months or 2 years. It's like I'm going to move on to the next thing. So I ended up going to Zagreb, the Zagreb University in Croatia, and did kind of like a semester there, sort of culture and language immersion. Got to meet up with my cousins and sort of explore that. I really didn't even know. I mean, Croatia wasn't a country until 1999. So we went there it wasn't like my graduation gift. We went there when I graduated from high school. Maybe I was a junior, but that was like meeting uncles and like seeing, like, my dad wears a ring. We all have them, but none of us wear them.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing like our family crest on like buildings on this little island called Rob. So like seeing and meeting like flesh and blood and people my age, it was like, oh my God, this is a whole part of my life I didn't even know about.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Then I ended up going back to, or not back, I went back to Hawaii, but this time to Oahu to help set up stores over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love DC. I love taking the metro, and we were kind of talking record here about just sort of like an entrepreneurial ecosystem center and stuff like that. So beyond the fact that Baton Rouge is the size that it is, I wish there was a way to get around a little easier. Everybody complains about traffic here. I get that. And I understand that, there are some things that are going to happen, like the expansions, and I know the bridge is a little bit controversial, but we're excited. I mean, it can't hurt, right? So like, there's going to be a little bit of short-term pain associated with it. But that was part of the reason why we ended up deciding to get a place in Ruzan, as pricey as it is because we can walk around. They just put a huge parking garage up. So we're excited about the first floor retail there, and Sprouts happens to be our grocery store.
Right.
Mary Stein showed me an awesome new rendering of the new library that's going to be there.
Yeah.
The guy that's building our house built his house literally across the street from us. Nick Cagley.
Yeah.
When Evo was in, he's in his class is the cookie class. So they get a Cookie Monster to take home, and you take pictures and they post it on the Facebook group. That got me back on Facebook after 20 years. But somebody in the comments was like, oh my God, like, I think you're going to be my neighbor. And like literally a girl in his class is our immediate neighbor.
Oh, cool.
And it's a mom, and it's a wonderful family, two girls. And so it's just, and other people, did you get to know Jennifer and Nellie Ward?
Oh, yeah.
Macho? Yeah.
So they film in here, right? They film a podcast. I filmed them.
That's what I thought.
Filmed them yesterday. I don't know when I filmed them.
That's awesome.
Not long ago.
Well, Nellie will be a neighbor as well. Like literally, you could throw a tennis ball and hit the side of her house from mine.
Okay. I didn't realize.
So it's just kind of a cool vibe. And we're at an age where we're going to be walking to the pool a lot, and hopefully there'll be a nice coffee shop in there.
Yeah. I mean, Ruzan's a great development, and I love the way it was laid out. I mean, so glad that Inquist and Level Homes kind of took it over. It's blossomed under their guidance and done extremely well.
When we first got out here, a realtor took us out there, and my wife grew up here, so she was like, "Oh, this used to be like pasture land or whatever, like rolling grassy hills and cows or whatever." But what we heard, well, at least for me, it was like, are these the lot lines? This is going to be like living in a fishbowl. And of course, 2 years later, now we want to be in that fishbowl. But independent of that, I guess maybe there was something swirling around with mismanagement or something.
It was some access points, and there was a discrepancy on what they were going to have to do. Spinoza was the original developer, and I think he just built a road. I don't know. Anyway, so there was a property owner that was holding out on selling part of it, and he just built anyway. And then, some of the first homes that were built on that first row, they were just, I don't know. They weren't. Yeah. They weren't built.
You kind of have to have a pretty clear. It's got to go according to plan. Everyone's got to be agreement on it.
They weren't built as well. They just weren't. And so it didn't take off as well. And then there was that unknown of it. And then once Level Homes took it over, it just blew up. And that they got the right builders in there building it. When you do those type of developments, you've got to have the right builders in there that are building quality products, control the product, control the price point. You need to know what the builder's doing. You can't be willy-nilly as a developer.
Right.
As a developer, you've got to be like, all right, everything in here is going to be from $500,000 to $600,000. You're going to put a walk-in closet. You're going to put quartz countertops or stone countertops and nice things. You've got to have that stuff. If you just let people go willy-nilly, it ends up becoming and the consumers don't know what they're buying, right? So then it's like, what am I building in here? What am I buying? There's one that's $1 million home and one that's a $500,000 home, and there's one that's and so they mixed in a little bit of product in Roseanne that was smart too, with having some 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms,
and kind of different builders,
and different builders, and they have different facades and stuff like that. But so they've done a good job of that, and obviously everybody wants the amenities. The amenities weren't in there with the previous builder; they weren't even talked about. You know, they were, they never got to that point. So people, but now you can go see that pool, and you can go see that clubhouse, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it's pretty gangster.
Well, the only thing, I don't think the clubhouse does not have a sauna. It just feels like what a missed. I know the Spectrum.
You're gonna have to figure out a way to put one of those infrared stand-up
seriously
in your house.
Just zip yourself.
Well, they say that you go and you do that a couple of times a week, and you end up decreasing the ability of having a heart event or a stroke. It's actually a big deal. You better get one.
Well, there's a guy.
Sell your wife on that.
A guy that I met with, that he has, your typical Louisiana business owner. He's got a carpet cleaning company and a hyperbaric chamber company.
Hyperbaric chamber. I don't know.
Do you know Max Zogby?
I don't know if I know that name.
Okay, he's and I might be mispronouncing that name. We have family friends called Zogbys, but he spells it different. It might be Zogby. But anyways, he introduced me to this guy, Cody. But he's an interesting guy. But there's something there with in an ideal world, like your gym would have the spa or like the cold dip tank, like that kind of. I know there's a gym I think in town that does that.
Oh man, I love the cold dip stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to incorporate that into my showers at the end.
Yeah.
But it's different than if you're just submerging.
I go to my pool. My pool at my house is deep, so then I go in there and I just jump in the pool. And I mean, it's right now. It's almost unbearable. Yeah. but like in the spring, even in the spring, it's cold. Like after my long runs, I'll go in and jump in the pool. And it'll give me that lactic release.
One of my sisters got married in I think February maybe, in Carmel, California.
Yeah.
And I went for a swim and it was really cold.
Yeah. But they're selling those things now, man. Can you believe it? Dude, those tubs that you put in your house with the cooling tank, you know how much the price tag is for some of those things?
I know a guy.
They were trying to sell one for $6,000 or $7,000.
It's insane. I know a guy that basically has almost like a drum, like a rain drum.
Yeah, that's what people were saying.
And then he was able to find some sort of solution that if you put that in there, the water would basically stay for maybe a few weeks, as opposed to having to basically drain it almost every single time. And I think you're actually you got to be. I don't know if you plug it in the wall, that cools. If you're putting ice in, physically. There
were guys doing freezers, and then what they would do is they take a freezer and they turn it upside down, like a deep freezer, and then they would line it.
It just sounds dangerous,
doesn't it? I'm and they built this whole thing around. I'm like, dude, somebody's gonna not unplug that some bitch, and there's gonna be you better unplug it before you get in. I have a feeling we're gonna be reading that in a newspaper article somewhere.
The police human blotter.
Yeah, Darwin Award. Anyway, but that's interesting. Well, cool. I guess let's get into BRAC. What exactly is BRAC and what does it do?
So we are the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. And I think it's gotten better. But when I first started, everybody was like, oh, awesome. I love the parks. Which one do you want to meet at? And I was like, no, not BRAC, And then people that are kind of not in the know, we're hard to know, but some people hear BRAF, the foundation. And they're awesome. They're just down the street from us. And my wife is kind of more involved in that space in development. But yeah, we're the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. We're both the economic development organization for the region, as well as a chamber for the business community. We advocate on their behalf. We try to increase economic opportunity for everybody. We have a wonderful business development team. We've got a policy team. I'm on the business intelligence team, not really the data person. I'm kind of like the human, the human on that team. We're all humans, but
That's right.
And then wonderful marketing team. And then of course we have an actual department that's for investor relations sort of explicitly. So they are the ones kind of working directly with our members and also doing, fundraising and stuff like that. So I would say in that context, I'm probably more on the EDO side, doing outreach. I really don't have any, I don't operate off of leads. Like people typically find me, not that, I have any stature here, but
right.
More as a kind of a connector and as an advocate on your behalf. So,
right. Yeah. I mean, to me, I'm not gonna lie, super confused.
Yeah.
Like who's BRAF? Who's BRAC? BRAC? Like there are so many abbreviations, and it is a deal. Like it really is a deal on like knowing what they do.
And I just met, got to know somebody from LSU Foundation, and she started, I should say, something called the Marketplace and Learning Institute. It's with United Christian Faith Ministries, and it's sort of like a professional and personal development kind of cohort through their congregation. And I spoke at that, and she kept calling it alphabet soup. And the folks at LEDs, they call it fire hosing, when you just take on all this information. So I've been there now. I'm in my second year of kind of meeting with businesses, and I even joined, I guess in the end of 2021. What year is it? Yeah, like COVID
right.
was weird. We got here right before COVID. So we got here from Los Angeles. Yeah.
Well, actually, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and it wasn't
from
planned.
Cali to here.
Yeah.
That's definitely
exactly
a little bit more freedom here.
A lot of people moved like because of COVID. A lot of people moved home.
Yeah.
So that was not part of our calculus, but it ended up working out. I mean, we're obviously super happy to be here. But yeah, I would say so as a whole. I think there's maybe we're 30 of us. I think we're actually going to make some new hires on
That's
our.
a lot. I didn't realize y'all had that many.
Yeah, it's more than you'd think. So we're getting some new folks that I think would be a little more targeted on the business development side. We're really excited about the opportunities in renewables and carbon capture. We have the Carbon Reduction Alliance, I think, if I'm getting that right. But yeah, some exciting stuff.
Yeah,
we have kind of a legislative arm that works closely with the legislature, and we try to again increase economic opportunity for everyone. So
right, yeah. So when you're talking about carbon capture and some of that stuff, it's kind of what I alluded to earlier with Jacob before this is Baton Rouge has a huge opportunity in the energy space, right?
Definitely.
I mean, when you think about Shell, ExxonMobil, I mean, energy,
Dow.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's all over the place with plants up and down the Mississippi. And what I thought could be a cool thing, and the tech park is looking for a new space, right? And what they could do is go into a new space, maybe downtown or something like that, and partner with LSU, Ben Moss, and Southern, and create like an energy sector kind of startup community, plus have companies like Falaya in it and other things, so that you kind of have like a spearhead for energy, but you also have spinoffs for speed, Chris coming, any of those type of companies that are coming through.
Well, this is perfect. And I know this, I'm sure this will be a surprise to you because we didn't like pre-plan this, but we are actually, there's something called Tech Next.
Okay.
And it is a conference that we do in partnership. Again, this is me now with the alphabet soup, but I think it's the Greater Baton Rouge Industry Alliance.
Okay.
I might be 100% right there, but I do know that it's February 16th and 17th.
Okay.
And yeah, we have some folks in our Drive Minority Business Accelerator that I'm going to encourage to go to that. I actually just had a meeting, and I would definitely want you to come to future ones. It was very informal, kind of like last second. But I met with a couple of different tech companies and kind of like coders downtown at a vintage coffee shop. And there's a guy named Jelani Jelani Clark, owns Trensic.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to get him to go. But yeah, the basic premise is that it is a kind of a regional conference to try to connect the tech sector with the energy industry.
Right.
But it could just be any sort of industrial application you could think of.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, there's so much that goes into energy that there's small, minute technologies that they need to large, full scale technologies. It's a big sector that needs a lot of innovation and
I think it is a space, I think, where you have so much expertise on either side that it might not be natural for them to know how to communicate. So it's like sometimes when I tell people, they're like, oh, well, that doesn't really line up. It's like, well, just send somebody. If you can't go yourself, like just try to be there to see what it's about, because you might learn something that you didn't know. You might find a new opportunity you weren't even thinking of.
Right.
But about the kind of having an entrepreneurial sort of like hub or an area. I mean, that's something as a chamber that we are squarely behind. We do these sort of peer city studies, canvas trips. We just got back from Greenville, and that is a very constant narrative, is that they either had an existing kind of entrepreneurial center in either a downtown area or kind of a centralized location, or they actively relocated and sort of planned things around that. So that's something that we see a lot of evidence that that's been a success.
I mean, that's absolutely the case.
And it's like there's sort of as a chamber, we're kind of known as, I guess maybe in a negative way or pejorative way, maybe almost like a gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. And then for the most part, we want the gates to be open. So sometimes people have to ask, and then we'll say, sure, let's line that up. Or at a more positive way, we're kind of like a convener. And so even for us, it would be easy if people were kind of already geo-located in a similar spot, just to be like, let's get this going. And we're already all here. Let's go grab a coffee. Let's get a drink. If it's 5 p.m., 11 a.m., whatever your preference is, like.
No, but I completely wholeheartedly agree. And that's the problem, is you got all these resources in different areas. You've got LSU at Innovation Park off of GSRI in the middle of a field in an older building.
Right.
I mean, in an older building. You got the tech park here off of Florida Boulevard in the old Bar Marché Mall. I mean, granted, they've done what they could with this place, but and then you've got Southern that could be in the mix, and they could come in. So but you got to get everybody to play nice, and that's the problem. Is everybody wants to protect their own resources,
right?
And so they're scared if they pull them together, their resources will get like, oh, you don't need as much, or I think change worries people that have budgets, especially with LSU. And especially with these bigger institutions, because the budgets can flow, and same with the tech park with the state legislature and what they're giving them, So it's like they don't know what to do, and every entity wants to survive and thrive. But I really firmly believe coming together is a way to go to make Baton Rouge and push Baton Rouge forward. And if they could come around energy, I think it's a no-brainer, because there's so many people.
It's what we do.
It's what we do, man. Yeah. And so I think it's a no-brainer for Baton Rouge to get behind something like that. You know what I mean?
When I first started, somebody kind of characterized what you're describing as, you hear things that are siloed, and his basic way of putting it was like, two major hurdles are institutional legacies and personal preservation. And those kind of go hand in hand.
That's basically what I said.
Yeah. But so I agree with that. I mean, one thing that we're doing as a chamber is I convene what we're calling the small business ecosystem once a quarter. And at a minimum, there is relatively frequent changeover in some of these organizations. It's a bunch of different partners. Usually it's 36 or so people that come. But also it's a chance for us to share any sort of organizational updates or personal updates, or look for ways to collaborate or partner up. One thing that we're kind of working on that for me it came up a lot towards the end of last year was sort of the lack of a commissary kitchen for the Baton Rouge area. And that could be, it doesn't have to be even just people getting started. It can be if you have a food truck, if you're a caterer and you win a big municipal contract and all of a sudden you don't have the capacity to prepare the meals.
Gotcha.
Some of that could be you want it to be done in a safe way. So if people are having to produce something out of their house, maybe it's not ideal. So I mean, like there's a public benefit to it. You could do this, I think, in a for-profit model. I know a lot of the nonprofits that do like child nutrition and meals for the aging population, there's always something there. I know LSU has Foodie. I think that used to be called the Food Incubator at the Ag Center.
Yeah.
Somebody from Southern's Ag Center is going to come to my next meeting next week. So that's an example. I know Baton Rouge Community College, they have, culinary school there.
They do.
Yeah, on their workforce campus. And I believe Dr. Fatima at Southern is their main instructor. And in the last meeting we had, I guess that was maybe early December, they were like, well, our space is only utilized a certain percentage of the week and a kind of a smaller percentage. So like maybe there's something there. So I mean, like I'm trying to find outcomes here because I understand the perception can be that, it's kind of like you're just sort of, I don't know I'm trying to come up with a metaphor, like pushing the ball around or something, but I'd rather be like, here's like a deliverable.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you're starting at a company, like you need results. So
that's my biggest thing about what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And commissary kitchen, by the way, it's a great idea. I definitely think that could help. But
it's a big one in Houston that everyone's going crazy over. They call it a ghost kitchen.
Ghost kitchens is what you're going to hear.
Yeah.
That's the startup world, ghost kitchens, right? And so you definitely need that to grow. And there are government programs that could utilize that. Council on the Aging, I think they deliver some of the elderly people.
Totally. Capillary United Way, the food bank, YMCA, just for
there's
camps
so many,
and stuff.
There's and then the private companies could do it. And as long as you can turn a profit, you're not really, you're helping leverage that and creating jobs too, which is huge for you.
It's a big thing.
Look, so, I mean, at the end of the day, the problem is people have to come together and they have to like cut, and they actually have to, like, if I don't wake up and do something today, like pushing nothing's going to get done.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, there has to be coming together and actual execution, right? And if you don't have execution, you really don't have anything, and you kick the ball around. and so we can talk about it all we want, but these people have to come together and they have to execute for Baton Rouge to grow. And that's the reality of it. And if we don't, like, there's a lot of things that have been done well, and there's the Greenway downtown. That was really cool. That happened. That's connecting the area that you're talking about, going over where the bakery used to be. I think that building could be huge right there. And so there's a lot of cool spots right there that could get revitalized, connecting downtown to mid-city. And so I definitely think, but people have to take action. And
one other thing is I got something on that, but one other thing just on the meeting next week, I think it's okay to kind of preview this. I think there'll be, proper announcement and all that, but we're really excited to be kind of like sort of in the economic development space. I've noticed that there's a little bit of we've talked about kind of silos here in our own kind of marketplace, but there's also a little bit of the rivalry with Baton Rouge and New Orleans.
Sure.
Which, living kind of in the west side of Los Angeles, we had friends that lived on the east side, and it would, without traffic, take 15 minutes to get there.
Right.
When we flew out of LAX, that was an hour minimum. So, I mean, like, I guess the point I'm making is that in the big scheme of things, Baton Rouge and New Orleans are quite close. There's a lake in between, but you know what I mean? Like, and also if you compare ourselves to like the Houston Metro, and that's the size of our state.
Houston's that's like barely, that's a normal day. Like,
but I know you're quite familiar with Idea Village.
Yes, yeah. So
we're going to be. I'll just mention because there'll be a lot of hoopla around it. We're excited. They're going to be doing an Idea Institute kind of Baton Rouge cohort here. They're going to come up for the meeting, so we're really excited about that. But just a chance not to. It's a big thing. You never want to, have a duplication of services. But I figure at that stage, at that sort of like ideation stage, and offering another layer of resources,
it can only help.
A lot of our awesome companies like Falaya end up interacting with Idea Village in New Orleans, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So we're really excited. That was kind of done in partnership with LSU and with Nexus. So we're all on the same page. And we're excited about that. We also got together to do this. I'm sure you've seen a copy of this, right?
I did. I'm actually in that. Yeah.
See, a little bit of love, but Startup City.
Appreciate the love.
Yeah, but
hopefully
that's a fun
I can
thing.
blow it up and be on the cover at some point.
Yeah, let's keep it going.
We'll keep it going.
But so on your point about, but that's kind of the ecosystem. So that's a way to at least have a cadence on the calendar, and to have everybody in the room at least 4 times a year. And that's just the baseline. That's just for the meeting. But hopefully that's a way to kind of come up with ways to communicate sort of the alphabet soup that can get kind of overwhelming for folks. There's also something that Nexus is doing with LED that's, I think it's called One Source. It's had a couple different names, but that'll be sort of a platform that'll be an aggregator for all these services. Mm-hmm. And it's really dependent on the organizations themselves, the service providers, their willingness to mostly just give the initial information, but then also to be able to respond to requests. But that we're excited about that, because that's been a challenge for me, even within BRAC sometimes, to know, hey, who's got the boardroom right now? What group is that? What meeting is that? Oh, it's quality of place. It's the mayor's coming through to talk about something with litter. There's the carbon, energy folks are doing whatever they're doing. So I mean, we're really looking forward to One Source being up and running, because a good place for people to get all that info kind of in one spot and be able to kind of go on that entrepreneurial journey. You'll kind of know where you are and who to talk to and when. But on the kind of the downtown area, I know, like, Electric Depot, Red Stick Social, we do a bunch of our kind of office stuff there. There's another development across the street that the developer Anthony Kimball's working on. That's, I think, also where the hub for the new rail connector from New Orleans is going to be. So that's kind of an extension, I guess, of Mid-City that could be another cool spot, especially, again, if you can get kind of people walking around there. You have all the amenities there. Mid-City is really cool. We love hanging out there. So maybe that's, again, it doesn't, it's not like downtown is the one place where all this could be. It's just like, that's where you want to have a high density of people, and you want to have that kind of like-minded creatives, people that are getting up because they're going to deliver something. And it's just that kind of that mindset.
That's what, they did in Atlanta, right? So it was connected close to a college, and then they went on the other side of the interstate where there was not as much economic activity, and it was a lot of crime and stuff at one point, it was. And then they went over there and they revitalized the area, and it became just this, now it's nothing but skyscrapers and revitalization and coffee shops and restaurants. And that's what you got to think is what does the future hold, right? What could it look like in 10, 20 years, right? And I completely agree that area they've already invested a fair amount, right?
Right.
Electric Depot. And then you only got to go a couple blocks. You're at Park. Once you go to Park, then you're at Catholic High. You could start to really connect downtown with Mid-City all the way to Goodwood to Jefferson. I mean, it could really start to connect the whole city. And the other side, my only other thing would be maybe going in the other direction with Water Campus towards LSU, right? I think it needs to be one or the other to try to connect LSU with downtown, because there's a lot of areas and empty lots and stuff where that could all be redeveloped too. So those two areas going that way are definitely primed for something like this.
So this is more me as a private citizen, but it's like, as they're doing this, like, let's get some dedicated turn lanes. Let's get some shoulders. No. There's like, can we put some French drains on Highland?
Here's what I want to say about that is, like, in real stuff, like we had someone come on here, and it's great. The BRAC is doing some of these stuff, and they're trying.
Yeah,
they're trying to do this stuff. You need to do it right, though. Like, more is not better. Better is better, right? And so you've got to actually put in a bike lane that's a true bike lane. Like, and we only need a couple of them. Like, we don't need to do the whole city of bike lanes that are barely this wide that a car could still clip you in 2 seconds and take you out, right? Like, it needs to be, like, built in a fashion that's actually truly connecting.
Well,
right?
I know there's a organization that I know one of the guys pretty well there. I think they met. We had a meeting with our quality of place person, Kayla, who's amazing. Bike BR, and I think like I'm all for that as well. And like let's go do that seriously. But
Right.
I think also the thing that interests me as somebody that doesn't really, I have a bike, but I don't commute on it or anything like that. But like I think there's like, it's described almost like a greenway, but it's
Right.
it's not even on the street.
Yeah, I would agree. It needs to be
because
almost.
then it
needs to
takes
be
that fear out of getting
needs to be
run over. You know,
That's what it.
I don't mean to
there needs to
make
be
light
a
of it, but
separator, like
Yeah.
legitimately like a concrete border that could separate the cars from the car's going to hit the border. I mean, if it hops the border, then you're really either drunk or.
Because I think like Pennington, you can go all the way down to the lakes, kind of on a green path, right?
Right.
That's like, you know, in between Perkins and Highland type thing. So yeah, something like that. I mean, if there were real ways to do that, I mean, I know we're already thinking, well, I won't say organizationally, but I know it's just something that people I've heard downtown talking about. It's like when the true, I don't know if it's a 2024 thing, but whenever the real disruptions from the expansion comes, are people going to shift their hours or shift their work from home days? So I mean, like if there was an alternative way to get to work and you kind of knew that going in, you'd have to plan your day biking in the summer. You're going to be a little scuzzy, you know,
Yeah,
but like maybe there's a way to be creative around that and get the health benefit too, obviously.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Baton Rouge, the way it's set up, I don't ever think it's going to be a huge commuter bike community. I mean, it might be some.
Yeah.
I mean, but
even recreationally.
But I think more recreationally and like people
growing up in DC,
and going to bars and restaurants and doing fun stuff and like, you know, students go. I mean, I could see that happening way more and more. I don't know if we would be a daily commuter community, but we could maybe do that. There would probably be pockets of people that would do it, but I don't think a mass commuter like New Orleans. Like people do that every day in New Orleans.
Even like we're not at a point with our family where we don't go to like LSU games. You know what I mean? But like if there was a reliable, I'm sure this exists. We have wonderful partners at Cats, but if there was like a really easy way for us to get on like a bus to take us to a game and then you get on the bus and go home.
There is that, but
you have to. I think we're like 3/4 of a mile though.
It's the same thing.
From Perkins,
like
you know?
The argument between like exactly like
we need a trolley.
You would have to go downtown. I think the bus goes from downtown to the stadium. So you from your house in Rouzan, once you have the Rouzan house, you would have to go downtown to get on a bus to then go, which that doesn't make a lot of sense. Kind of defeats the purpose. It kind of defeats the purpose because your house is closer to the stadium than going downtown.
This was fun. I don't remember the exact event that I was at, but something around transportation. And I was talking with somebody, and we were just saying like, yeah, like every once in a while you'll see a bus go by, and it's an older bus, and it's got 4 people on it, and it's a capacity of 40.
Right.
So it's like we were just talking, you know, and we were like, God, wouldn't that be cool to like get more like, you know, electric powered, almost like airport shuttles that have a capacity of 18 or 20 or something like that. They're doing that. They're on contracts. I don't know when it's going to happen, but they're going to get a fleet of smaller sized electric things. You could have more frequent pickups, less pollution theoretically just on the road. You still have to charge it's a big, you know, you have to still make it run.
Right.
And then maybe if your capacity is so low, maybe that's a kind of a different model. But yeah, but I hear you. I mean, you can't like reinvent.
It does have
the
to
city,
be. But it does have to be reliable. I think that's the biggest thing because like that's why Uber disrupted taxis, right?
Right.
Taxis, you would call them and you didn't know if they were going to show up. When are they going to show up? How quickly could they show up? And people, you know, would quickly get in the car and drive when they shouldn't because of the unreliability. And now you know where your Uber is, you can pick you up, you know. So like, what does the connectivity for Cats look like that? I mean, I would say if we're gonna talk about that, I think it needs to be with like some type of application where people know like they can get to here to there and they know where it's at.
Seems possible.
It seems
right?
very possible, right? So it's
especially
all about
if they're
reliability.
If they're new vehicles, and they're coming more frequently anyways, it would be like, yep, it's going to be
okay. Cool. I can get on at Park. I could park at City Park golf course and hop on the thing to go downtown,
and you kind of know you can plan around that.
You can plan around that.
Even the LA has a metro, and sometimes we would drive to like, you know, the kind of for us we were way out, and then we would go a little bit further in. We drive 20 minutes and then take the metro downtown.
Right.
And that was always, it's kind of fun. Like I know in DC, maybe in New York too, it's relatively accurate, but they'll also be like, the next train's coming in 6 minutes or 11 minutes or whatever. And then
well, if you have enough activity, then that doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah, because it's only a matter of time.
Yeah,
you're not going to
like
wait
in the big cities, you didn't really worry about cabs because you didn't call a cab. You just waved a cab because they were everywhere, right? So then it's like it wasn't as much thing. But you're in Baton Rouge, there aren't that many cabs driving around, so you had to call a cab, and they would never show up. So it depends. If you have enough volume, then they don't care about the reliability. But if you don't have enough volume, you need to know when it's going to be
that's
there.
I think that's been the kind of the rock and the hard place for Baton Rouge is that like ridership is still so down from pre-pandemic levels that it's hard to like you're kind of working with less. So you want to do more.
I really don't think that that's the problem we have to solve, quite honestly. Well, I hate to be that way. I mean, I definitely think it could be improved, but I don't think that that's the thing that changes Baton Rouge. I really believe that it needs to be some type of, like you're saying, district to keep people excited about Baton Rouge. I think it needs to be some type of place where the tech park comes together with LSU Southern and all the other entities and creates a space and a area that fosters innovation, keeps talent. The biggest thing is talent, right? Our attrition is leaving because they don't really view Baton Rouge, quite honestly, as a funky, innovative city. Unfortunately, that is not the perception, and people may think it is. It's just not.
Right.
And so how do we flip that into we are in Austin, we are in Atlanta, we do have these things, and that's going to be with people knowing that these resources exist and that they're excited. They come and they do internships here or they take classes here at this new establishment.
They already kind of have their foot in the door.
That's why you got to have LSU in there, and that's why you got to have Southern in there, and that's why that Southern, LSU, and the Tech Park need to come together to build something like that. Because if not, it's going to be like a Band-Aid on a problem that's really going to keep happening.
Well, it's not. This is not a set thing just quite yet, but I think it's a Thursday, the 23rd. I think I'm gonna have a little bit of an open. What am I trying to say? Sort of a meetup from 6 to 8 p.m. in our boardroom at the chamber for founders and developers to try to connect with each other, but also potentially with those students and potential soon-to-be workforce applicants.
Right.
We definitely want you to be there.
We are definitely interviewing. Yeah. We've interviewed several people.
Nice.
And so, yeah, man. I mean.
Because a lot of that stuff exists. We support a lot of awesome things like Handshake.
That's where we're on.
We did BR Works. So it's like, but in addition to that, I know some of the feedback that I've gotten from you and from other founders and tech companies is just a little more not spontaneity, because usually typically in life you work hard at something and you get better and you see results but more of like an agility to it, or more of a flexibility. I guess that's basically saying the same thing. But that's what I'm hoping to maybe achieve by just doing it without putting a lot of guardrails around it, and just kind of seeing how it goes. Because if that goes well, then I know we've got Baton Rouge Entrepreneurship Week coming up. I know when the New Orleans folks are in town, they'll be talking about New Orleans Entrepreneurship Week. So maybe we can get a bunch of people from here to go there.
That's what I was trying to. I talked to John Atkinson about that and trying to spearhead that. And I told him Calvin's been a great person that's been connecting New Orleans to Baton Rouge, you as well. So
maybe like a group rate that we can, and we can carpool it up or do whatever to get out there. Yeah.
We already signed up. I mean, Jacob and I are going, so we'll be out there. We already are going to go. I love supporting Idea Village and what they've helped me grow, and
it's really cool. Their events are really fun. They're
we did go concerts, through, we did go through the Idea Institute. I was in that I think it might have been the first time it was there or something. It got
how many years ago was that?
Well, they changed the name of it, I think, from Idea Institute or something. I don't know. Anyway, it was Idea Institute whenever I went through it, and Felipe Massa with Loyola, and he was our moderator and taught us, it's all about the lean startup method
Right.
and customer discovery. And we went through that and phoned all kind of for sale by owners and builders and contractors to kind of see if people would want to buy Falaya, right?
Yeah.
And then we ended up pitching, and we actually won that competition there at the Idea Institute.
That's awesome.
That was like what kickstarted this whole idea. Was that. So I mean, that's so I mean,
the way he described it to me was that because that's always I think a concern on our end is like, well, who are we marketing this to? Who's it going to help? And I guess we were trying to make sure that it would be relatively applicable to kind of the broader public. And he said, yeah, definitely. He said, by the end of the 10-week cohort, the goal is either the business feels very confident that they're on a pathway towards a scalable, high growth potential company,
viable, right.
And they have some viability there. They're working on an MVP. They've got connections. They've got momentum, all that. Or they determine that's not for them. They're going to be a lifestyle company, which I kind of, in this sort of entrepreneurship space or the tech or high growth space, it's kind of like a pejorative to be like a lifestyle company, but like a lifestyle company you can provide for your family.
I would agree.
You can have great employees. You can be a big, awesome community leader and have a huge impact. And it's like, oh, you're like a lifestyle company. It's like, well, sorry, we're really great dry cleaner or something, like
my thought on that is stop worrying about the label. Stop worrying about what anyone else says about your business or your company. Start worrying about what your customers say about your company, and start worrying about delivering a value. And all these acronyms that you hear in the startup world and all these judges that judge you that don't know anything. like I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, it doesn't matter, like to your point, like lifestyle this or startup that. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to be honest with you. I think there's going to be way more successes in the lifestyle space than there will be in the startup space. So if you're wildly successful in the lifestyle space, you're probably going to be well off, and you'll have been successful and provided a lot of value.
And the even like, there's got to be a better way to say it, because I guess definitionally, it's sort of like, well, yeah, you're just like supporting your lifestyle with the business enterprise. It's like, well, yes, I work for a living. Yeah, I employ people. Like I give to charity. Like I support.
I guess it just boils down to it all boils down to this, right? And it's kind of the weird space of a startup world, right? Is who serves who, right?
Right.
And you've got these VCs that are connected with Tech Park, that are connected with Idea Village, and it basically boils down to, are you investable, right? So it's like these startup communities are building these companies to feed the VCs, and the VCs are funding them to grow base, to then grow employment, to grow so it's not like negative, but it's like, are you investable from a situation of a VC investor? And that's really what it boils down to. Are you a lifestyle business that's going to be more of your company, or do you think you're going to actually get to the point where you get institutional cash behind your venture to grow across multiple states and across the whole country? And, that's the difference, and you can call it whatever you want, but that's basically what they're saying.
Right. Well, I think at the end of the day, whatever track you end up on, I think from a service provider standpoint, if there's one thing you can provide them, it's sort of like the motivation to keep going.
I would agree.
Because often it's like you're probably, there, of course, terrible things can happen in life, but it's like you have to set your own path. My primary function, I would say, in my capacity meeting with businesses sort of on a one-on-one basis, is sort of like top of the funnel.
Right.
So I want to make sure, I call it like the universe of what's out there.
Okay.
So I hope it doesn't come off as kind of like a boilerplate approach, but there is a lot out there. They call it a fire hose for a reason.
Right.
But I want to make sure that they know those things are there. I'd love to connect, humans to humans. So whenever I meet with a new referral partner, like I just actually met with a guy this morning who started about the same time that I did. And, his name's Quincy Mouton, and he is the small business liaison for the Secretary of State's office.
Okay.
And it's like, cool. So, what he was asking for, I was like, okay, that's, so anyways, he's going to come to my ecosystem meetings. That's kind of example of trying to be organic and trying to bring people in, trying to kind of meet the needs for the folks where they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say, that appears to be kind of the number one thing is like, just, you want to give people the tools to be successful. But you want them to keep going, to try things. It's okay. Now, obviously you don't want to get in the habit of failing, but sometimes that's what you have to go through to kind of, to make something work.
No doubt. I mean, it is really, you got to trial and error, and you got to find out what works for you and doesn't work for you. And hopefully the Idea Village coming to Baton Rouge, helping support the area can only help.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a feeder to the biggest incubator in the state, with the most connections to the VC world and, outside of the state into the nation, right? So I would say it's definitely the best feeder for startups that are going to raise big capital funds, right? So, I fully support John coming over here, and I love what he's doing.
Well, you're a good example of somebody that we have a lot to offer here in our region, but once you get to that level, there's not that many other places you can go to in Louisiana. So
not really. I'm going to be honest with you. It's about, there's about 5 or 6 big players. You got Calais Capital, Acadian Angels. I mean, you got Nolan, you've got these big groups throughout the state, but there's not that many. Restic Angels in Baton Rouge, but Restic Angels has only been around for a couple of years, right? Yeah. So it's like
I've met more and more people though that are interested in that. So I know that there's been kind of a transition period.
You ought to push that too whenever you're in this, because I'm gonna be honest, there needs to be a bigger VC network in Baton Rouge and a bigger VC.
Well, there was a guy.
The amount of money that's in this city,
Yeah, well, and I hear a lot of. Positives about what's going on, about what BRAC specifically is doing, about other partners. I hear a lot of negatives too. So you have to kind of process things. You want just like we were talking about earlier, you want to kind of keep things moving. You want to keep growing, getting better. And again, I guess if receiving criticism is sort of acknowledging a failure, then it's like, okay, you learn from that and you keep going.
Right.
So one thing I've heard is that developer, I won't name him, not that I don't think he'd mind, but he was like, I could go out right now and get 4 dentists each to give me $200,000 and I can start building you an app tomorrow, but he's like, but there's not enough sophistication around those processes. Like on the investor side, like they need a way to connect to the entrepreneurs, and
there needs to be a person that's the point for the VC, right?
And Redstick Angels, and that is what that is. So I mean, I would say it's a work in progress.
And you need follow up, and you need maintenance of the cash. How are they using the funds? What's happening? I mean, there's ongoing services to that. It's not just the investment and walk away, right? You've got to service that investment. You know what I mean? Like if you just fund it and walk away, that's just not going to be successful, right?
Yeah, I met with a guy recently that was like, he's newly married, and I think they're thinking about starting a family in a few years. He's like, in the meantime, he's like, I'd like to. They have investment properties. They've got their typical, stock portfolios, but he's like, I love to invest in like some companies. He was like, how do I do that? So
if he's an accredited investor, send him our way.
See, dude. this is how it happens,
dude. I mean, send him our way, dude. I mean, I know Jacob and I say we identify as a company that is fundable and expandable.
What did Speed do down the hall?
He did a
start engine
crowdfund, crowdfunding campaign.
That was cool. It was
raised,
like the ticker.
He raised like 300,000-400,000.
Yeah, that's really neat. Yeah. Stuff like that's cool. I mean, back in the day, this will show when I had my printing company, we did Kickstarter. So that this was like, this is over 10 years ago or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you there. I think so. I my position's new, so in a lot of ways, after kind of being out on my own as an entrepreneur, I was kind of looking forward to like being more of a structure. Didn't have a lot, so I'm kind of building it as I go, which is great. So doing the kind of the informal tech meetup, that's already led to something. I want you in that group.
Okay.
And Jacob too. And then I think the next kind of thing for me which I'll be honest, it's not something that comes terribly. It's not very intuitive to me. Is some of the investment stuff. So I need to kind of build that out and have that be where it's sort of a meetup. I think I've been to a Red Stick Angels meeting, and that was wonderful. I know they meet quarterly, so maybe there's a way to facilitate kind of more opportunities to talk. I know,
and there might be a way to quite honestly, I think there could be. Red Stick Angels doesn't need to be the only game in town. Right? It could be. There ought to be diversity of VCs like in Baton Rouge. There should not just be one in Baton Rouge. There's not just one in New Orleans. Why is there?
It was Microbrew. Was it Microbrew that was at Water Campus?
Right.
That was so cool. We got to see the model. I guess it wasn't fully functional, but I'd never been in there before. It looked pretty cool to me.
It was cool. Yeah.
And Bill Ellison and I can't remember his.
Ben.
Yes, yeah, Ben. They did a really great presentation, kind of like financials investing 101.
It was actually employee options.
Yeah, with how
Jacob would love.
Yeah, that's right. It was sort of like
how do you do that when you're giving out funds?
So yeah, and that's from the entrepreneur end.
Gotcha.
How
do you do that? How do you structure that? Where's the vesting period?
So something like that. How would it be? Would there? I wonder if we could. I mean, I know Bruce coming up, so hopefully there'll be some programming around that
for sure. No
okay, well then,
but there could be a whole network on that. But I mean, I really think honestly, getting a bunch of investors together and getting the funds together, and then someone to manage them. Now that might be beyond BRAC's wheelhouse, but still.
But I don't mind. I mean,
getting the conversation started and the people in the room, and then how do we structure it, and all that. There's a lot of money coming down the pipes too with that program from where they're actually giving the money to the investors.
SSBCI.
Yes, yeah,
2.0.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't know. It's an interesting program.
It definitely is. A lot of people are excited about it. LED put that press release out, so we field a lot of calls.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of, as you can imagine, a little bit of confusion over exactly what it is. Yeah. This is not a PPP thing. It's basically SBA style, so you do have to pay it back. But the idea is that it's supposed to kind of make the financial market a little more liquid. So on the debt side, which is the smaller share of the overall 113 million or whatever it is very it's essentially identical to SBA's setup. So they have whatever they call their small loan, their collateral loan, and then their micro loan. So it's an extra layer of guarantees for the lenders. And then they have their seed capital kind of funds and CDFI, stuff like that, where you kind of already have to be like, you're not going to read a press release and be like, I'm going to start a company. So like, it's kind of for what's already existing, which is of course what it's for. But I guess it's just hard sometimes to field a question, and it's hard to know where to start to answer. That just shows my limitation on how to articulate what it is. Yeah. But a lot of folks, just that I've heard, they're kind of institutionally, I think the lenders are sort of waiting, or the funders are waiting for somebody to go first.
I would agree,
because they got to send that thing up. So I mean, it's there. It's going to be a big deal. It's kind of like the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction and Jobs Act. There's just a lot of funds available coming down.
How the percentages broke down to large companies, small companies, and some of that stuff. There's like,
well, and there's supposed to be a socially and economically disadvantaged aspect to it.
Yeah. And it's like there's so many rules, and that's like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be like the dam breaking, but somebody's going to have to go first, and then we'll see. I think we have a list for the Capital Region of the lenders.
Okay.
I don't know if did you ever get anything like that?
I didn't.
All right. Well, I know LED was doing kind of information sessions at a regular cadence. Maybe we're due for one.
Yeah, sure, no doubt, man. Well, are there any huge projects that BRAC's working on right now, or what's the biggest project y'all have or focus?
Well, let's see. I mean, I'm trying to think of our event calendar. I mean, organizationally, I mentioned that Tech Next thing, which could be really cool. I think it's maybe at Manship Theater.
Okay.
I think it's like 2 days of programming.
Yeah, I've actually seen that. That's where the energy sector comes
yes,
in, right?
exactly. Okay, cool. Because a lot of people haven't heard about it.
No, I've heard about it.
Oh, good. Okay.
I mean, I was kind of like, should I show up to show my face there? But I'm like, does it really make sense for Falaya to be there? Not really, you know?
Yeah,
so,
let me.
But if there's like an hour that's smart for me to come, I would support it, you know?
Yeah, let me try to get a solid answer. Then you can obviously share that with your network too.
Yeah, no doubt.
So we got that on the 16th and 17th. Our annual meeting is at the Kane Center, or River Center, and that should be a good fun time. Big. I think it's a few hours of stuff. There'll be lunch served. That's March 3rd.
Okay, cool.
So that would be a good place. I think we're expecting like 1,000 people to be there. So it should be a good event. I know we have a happy hour. I'm actually going to be in overseas with the MBA program with LSU with my wife, but that'll be at Mestizo's on the 15th. We just had a happy hour, actually reverse happy hour. So it was 8 to 10 in the morning at the brewery.
Okay.
Down Perkins.
All right.
A really, really cool spot, kind of like a co-meeting space.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, kind of like more like meeting spaces as opposed to like workstations.
Gotcha.
But really cool spot. It's actually, we were just talking about kind of private equity investing. Do you know JRE?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's their offices right there. That's one of their developments.
Okay.
So really, really cool spot. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
we're
cool.
doing a lot of stuff on talent retention. We have the technology action collaborative, which sort of connects K through 12 school with industry, and it kind of goes and runs in both directions. You know Joshua Anderson with Startup Grind.
Yep.
Have you ever done one of those?
I'm actually speaking on the 22nd, so come.
Oh,
If you're
nice.
gonna be there, yeah.
Of this month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wednesday after Mardi Gras.
Nice.
Are you going skiing or anything?
No. I will be there.
around?
We're a sponsor.
Okay, cool. Yeah, come here.
Oh, nice. Is it at Tin Roof?
It is.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
We're actually I've got Joshua coming up to the chamber tomorrow, and I've got Stephen and Natisha, I think, and Madeline coming over from Nexus as the kind of the co-sponsors.
Oh, cool.
To give him some sponsor love, maybe some marketing.
Oh, cool.
Marketing help if he so desires. But we really like Startup Grind. It's a good time.
No doubt. I mean,
Good place to connect. That's where I
is.
met Lex Adams with Crimer, or now
Okay.
I guess he's here as well.
Yeah.
With Griffin.
He
yeah.
is.
Basically,
He is.
now I guess it's Vigilist for the software dev, but
Yeah.
but yes, I mean we're working on the talent space. We're working on diversifying the economy. That's kind of the Carbon Reduction Alliance. I hope I'm getting that right. Working on a more inclusive economy. We do something with Metamorphosis called BR Pop.
Okay.
So that's a chance. It's the Procurement Opportunity Partnership. So it's a chance to connect minority owned businesses with kind of the driver industries. So that you have people probably hear about government contracts. There's kind of all these different things set up there for women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses.
Right.
So this is kind of like our not our response to that, but our version of that in the corporate space. So you mentioned it before: Dow, Exxon, Shell, Blue Cross Blue Shield, a lot of the big players. I think there's 26 different companies that are involved. We have our Drive Minority Business Accelerator that's going really, really well. I actually, Chris Hilliard-Broussard's Laundry.
Yeah.
So I got him to present at a thing that I did for a church in North Baton Rouge.
Okay.
For kind of like professional development, how to grow your business or elevate your startup or whatever. And then another participant, or Chris is not in the accelerator, but a participant in our Drive Accelerator named Lakeisha Robichaux, who has a kind of an HR, really, really cool company called Chief of Minds. So she presented it to me as well. We are working on quality of place matters, which is a lot of what we kind of talked about. Litter is a big deal.
Right.
Just remember the really cool company called Smasher. And it's like, it's this wild truck. I think they have 2 of them, and it looks like something out of Mad Max.
Okay.
But it's literally like a big, cylinder with like, it looks kind of like, a club that like a giant would carry.
Right.
But you drop that thing into the 30-foot bin, and it just runs it back and forth and like smashes it down. So you could, instead of having your trash hauled twice a week, you could have it like every other week. So it's just a cool product, but they had some really innovative ideas on how to help with sort of a litter collection in the city and the parish. But yeah, even stuff with like bike paths, all the kind of quality of play stuff in general. But yeah, my thing is I'm trying to do more of these kind of informal meetups. I really like the idea of doing something with the investment space, almost more on the investor side, because I think Nexus does a pretty good job with the actual startups.
Yeah.
So I'd have to get a little bit out of my comfort zone there, but I think I'm willing to. I meet with anybody. I drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah, you just need to connect with some of those people maybe that have, some of those other VCs and see how they're doing it. And what they do to educate their people. We could connect you with the Acadian Angels or Noland, or
that would be
obviously
great.
Red Stick you already connected with, but
well, I need to kind of rekindle that too, because there was a few things that I did right when I started in the position, and I'm like a whole new guy now. I know everything. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so you're always learning, always getting better, but yeah, and I think also that's I know that there's a criticism there that like things get stale, or again that people are kind of get comfortable. It's like, I don't know if I'll ever be comfortable doing this because I still don't really know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like I and that's okay. Like I'm trying to have that entrepreneurial spirit and mindset of like you're saying, like you need deliverables, you need to actually do something. So that was honestly kind of a challenge in the first year. Was like, I'm meeting with a ton of people, but I don't know if I'm really making a dent. So something like a commissary kitchen, doing this tech meetup, and some of that is just, you got to be careful. You can't please everybody. No, especially organizationally. Like I am bound by our mission, and I'm totally aligned with it personally, of course. But we have certain marks we have to hit, but it's like, let's go. Like, let's I'd rather try and fail and then try something new, as long as we're not hurting anybody,
I would agree. And there just action is key, right?
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like the magazine.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of action I've seen over the last 6 months, in my opinion.
Good.
That's led in the right direction. That's saying that we are doing certain things. I'm seeing things change, but they obviously, the big ticket items of moving this building and getting LSU and Southern. I mean, that's like a 4 or 5 year deal,
Yeah.
But,
well, the amount of times I hear stuff,
like the meetups are short term goals. Like they're like, how can we affect change this week?
Yeah.
How can we affect change next month? Right. And with Brew and with the Idea Institute, that's like real change right now. But we also need transformational change.
Well, that, so and we say, which is true, we're the sort of the voice of the business community. We're an advocate for growth and acceleration and innovation. So, one way to achieve that is to gather data and to amplify that voice. So yeah, I'm totally agreeing with you. I think by doing these kind of informal meetups, maybe I can report up, so to speak.
Yeah. And
then try to keep things going. And again, there's no silver bullet in anything, but like the amount of times I hear like, we've been talking about doing this bridge for 20 years, or Louisiana's 49th in the country in this. I've never lived in a place where like the internal perception is worse than the external one. You know what I mean? Like you were talking earlier about growing up in DC, going to school in Boston. I've lived in Los Angeles for 12 years. I lived in Hawaii, 2 different islands, kind of 2 years each. did semesters overseas and stuff. So I mean, I feel like there's a lot of potential here.
There is,
and I think there's also maybe. There's a lot that we can do with what we have, and then that's the true kind of startup mentality. It's like, how are we gonna survive, and how are we gonna make this awesome?
Right. No doubt about it. Well, that's great. Well, one more thing I kind of want to talk to you before we wrap up.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of going long, but the MBA, LSU MBA, I got my MBA at LSU, so I kind of want to hear about your experience with Dana and the whole LSU MBA and how that's going.
It's cool. Did you take negotiations?
I did. Yeah.
With Farguson.
Yes.
He is a character.
Farguson,
I'm in that
actually,
right now.
I saw Farguson actually at the Crescent the other day.
Oh, nice. He went to a general informatics event, and Dana was there. It was Connor LeBlanc. You know Connor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody knows Connor.
Yeah. We met him at Brew last year, I guess.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's been great. You know, when I first moved out here, I was like, yeah, you know, I graduated from college quite a bit ago. I've been doing my own thing, wearing, you know, board shorts and a trucker hat to work every day.
Yeah.
Felt a little disconnected from like the regular kind of corporate world. When I would interview for jobs with the state of Louisiana, they were like, I would get kind of far in the process and then they'd be like, you don't want this job. And I was like, I'm unemployed. I would move here. I'm like, I'm stuck at home with my kids. Like, I'll do anything, you know?
Yeah.
But
COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
On top of it, yeah.
No, but it's been great. So I was thinking of maybe doing my master's in public administration.
Your PBA.
Yeah, exactly. And but that was not going to happen during the lockdown.
Don't they have like a
They have a JD.
JD.
Yeah, that's the law.
That's what I almost did that one.
Yeah, but anyway, so I wasn't really comfortable. I was working at a place called Focus Foods, which was we did over 5 million meals in the first 6 months for kids in the school breakfast and lunch program. Yeah. That was kind of that connection to the food insecurity space with the commissary kitchens and all that.
Gotcha.
There's a big application for-profit usage of commissary kitchens. It's not. There's a public-private kind of play there.
Right.
But yeah, so when I was there, I started taking online classes with the MBA.
Gotcha.
And really enjoyed it. I think I took 4 classes over kind of spaced out, kind of on my schedule type thing. I was applying for jobs at that time like crazy too. And then I started working at BRAC and I was like, all right, I'm going to start taking classes again. And I was at a New Year's party, you know, for families with kids that are in preschool and kindergarten. Right. So we're meeting at like 5 p.m. And one of the guys, Brooke, works for the water company, was like, how's the MBA going? And I kind of described to him like, yeah, it's kind of stopping and starting, but I'm enjoying it. I'm not really getting like I've met more people in Texas and Florida than I have in Louisiana, which is so ironic because we're literally 8 minutes from campus. And he's like, dude, you should he asked me what classes I took. And he's like, you should do the EMBA. And he's like, you've done the core classes. You could fill in your electives. So I'll basically be done after we get back from this trip to Singapore and Vietnam, but I'll be done in mid-May. We'll walk in August.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Congratulations. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So it was cool. I emailed Dana. I think at like 8 p.m. on December 31st, and on the 4th of January, I was like there at the orientation. So
good for you, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I met with Dana. I did the online stuff too while I was working for a Fortune 500 company. I met a lot of people, like you said, from all over taking it, and it was a lot of energy sector people. I don't know if it was for you. There was a lot of people in the MBA program that worked for Exxon, that worked for Shell, that worked for these big corporations, and they were trying to move up, and they were getting their MBA to do so.
Yeah, my wife just sent me something where I don't know what the publication was, but it was like LSU Flores Business School, top ranked in the country.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Dana on that, and he gave the Go Tigers, but no, it's been really cool. I'm really glad I did it. I've got a creative way. Anybody that it's not getting covered by their employer through Louisiana Workforce Commission, something called Small Business Employee Training. You guys might be able to do this with Jacob, but not specifically that. But I think it's like $3,000 an employee for professional development.
Oh, really?
So when I read the eligibility requirements, I was like, well, that's certainly what the MBA is. So you can only put it towards tuition out of all the other fees. It's 19 things on that receipt,
Yeah.
But hey, every little bit helps. So.
Oh, it does, no doubt, man. I think it was like 43,000 whenever I took it.
It's something like that.
I gotta. It's probably sizably different.
Yeah, I got.
It probably is more expensive now.
I got a jacket out of it. I was like, "This is the most expensive jacket I ever bought."
I got a dinner out of the deal.
Nice, yeah. Did you do only online, or were you doing the hybrid on campus?
I came to campus for a couple classes, but not many.
Cool. Okay.
Not many. I mean, because I'm gonna be honest with you, when you're working and you're a professional,
it's hard.
It's so much easier. And I had just, a family, a wife, I mean,
yeah.
They
describe it. They describe it as a campus residency. So it's basically once a month, give or take. You go there for a Friday afternoon, then an 8 to 4, 8 to 5 on Saturday.
Right.
But it's a great group that I'm with. There's a couple of military guys with great stories and obviously great people.
Yeah.
There's LSU Foundation. There's a guy with I think maybe he's with Exxon, but he's like a literal ship captain.
A ship captain.
Yeah, and a rugby player.
He's a ship captain on the Mississippi River?
No, I mean I think he's been all over the world.
All over the world.
So now I think he's like I think it's described as, I'm sure I'm getting all of this wrong, but like a terminal operator.
Got you.
Or something like that.
Got you.
But we're in Farguson's negotiations class right now, and
I took it.
It's interesting. Yeah.
I took it, and I've he's in real estate too. He does.
He's doing smalls.
He does. Well, yeah,
with
small
Brandon Landry and Drew Brees. He told us some anecdotes from that. Really cool guy.
He owns
really
those
great
lots
classes.
right on Highland too, right there at Stanford. I think he's trying to sell.
Okay.
He does a little real estate plays. I've cold called him a couple times and it was Ferguson. That was a while ago, but he was had it listed on for sale by owner, and I was trying to get him on Falaya and cold called him.
I don't know if I'd want to negotiate him.
He was pretty strict.
Him,
He was like, I don't need you. And I was like, okay. I'm like, I don't think you realize who I am. Because when we call for sale by owners, they have been inundated with realtors trying to get their business.
Right.
So as soon as you make contact with them, they're just like,
Would he remember you from the class?
He knows me from around here now.
Okay.
He's been to some of these events, and he
I
knows
was
me
gonna
from
say.
Falaya. Yeah, he knows who I am.
I connect
now.
people,
but
so
I don't think
can
he
put
remembers.
I'll be with him on Friday.
I don't think he remembers about me and going through his class necessarily.
I'll remind him.
But he knows. He knows who. I mean, I saw him in the Crescent. He said hello to me.
He's a super nice guy. The whole thing has been top class and a lot of fun. And again, it's a great group that we're with. So you kind of get to go through the program with that group. And I still keep in touch with a lot of my friends that initially when I was online, I thought that was the experience. It was great. So I still keep in touch with them. But it's going through it in the cohort, being here locally. That was a big part of it for me. It was kind of being the dude on campus,
Right. No doubt, man. Well, man, it's been great talking to you, man.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully we did we do it?
We did it. We went way over. That's all right, man. I'm sure Jacob's tired and ready to wrap up over there. But man, it's been good talking to you. I mean, excited to hear all the great things that you're going to do with BRAC, and hopefully we can grow Baton Rouge together and make this place a pretty awesome city.
Definitely. Yeah, I encourage anybody to
tell them how to reach out to you.
Look me up.
Yeah.
I hate it when people say go to the website. But,
but it is.
But if you do go to brac.org, you can find me there. Small business services. I really prefer people to reach out to me on email initially. So it's a long one. It's Christopher S@brac.org. But we'll basically I meet with anybody that reaches out, and we'll get a coffee and see what we can do and kind of go over that universe of resources and incentives and networks that are out there to help you grow, and then then the ball's kind of in their court, and we just take it from there.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man, and look forward to growing the city.
Thank you, man.
All right, guys. Awesome. Well, we'll see you next time here on the Falaya Focus Podcast. Hey, guys, I wanted to take a second and say thank you for watching the Falaya Focus Podcast. At Falaya, we are reimagining the way real estate is bought and sold. So we need all the love and support we can get to grow our movement. Please tell all your friends and family about all the great things that we have going on here at Falaya. Please like, share, and subscribe to all of our content, and we'll see you next time on the Falaya Focus Podcast.